How are we? Good. I'm glad. That's how it should be. We're home. It's Sunday morning. We've made it through the week, and we are back together again. I'll tell the students that this Wednesday nights when we come together I look forward to it, and I look forward to it, and I look forward to it because it's the coming home of the family. It's like finally in the middle of all the chaos of life, of whatever's going on in school or at work or at home or with my parents or whatever, we get to get recharged, refreshed, refocused, and then go back out in loving people, hopefully connecting them to Jesus and teaching them to grow and serve him. That's the goal, right? So this time together, I look forward to, and I hope you do too. I hope you have that excitement and that passion to come home every week. This is really, really a crucial place for us. So I'm glad that you're here. And I also want to say good morning and welcome to our friends in our other venues in the chapel. And those of you online, I am glad that you're joining us too. I'm not sure if you realize, but while we're doing this, we have other people, other places. So we have the chapel, they're worshiping in their style, and then we all together, whether they're in a hospital or at home or in the chapel or wherever, we all worship in our own style, but then we come together under one spirit, with one body under the one word of God. I love it. And where we're at now in this whole sermon series, if you don't realize, we're in the middle of a series called The Process, which was so well named by Pastor Sam. And over the last few weeks, we've been kind of struggling through some things in our own lives and making sure that we're not making the same mistakes that the Israelites have made. And this morning, we're going to continue that. If you've got a Bible, go ahead and grab that. Open up to Numbers. That's where we're going to be. If you don't have a Bible, you can grab one under the chair pocket in front of you or in the chapel in the chair there. Grab a Bible and go ahead and just write your name in that and make it yours because that's our gift to you. We just want you to have that, use it. But we're going to Numbers chapter 16. And I want to just do a quick recap. It's a little humbling to be up here following Pastor Sam and Pastor Phil, then last week Pastor Dylan, talk about some shoes to fill. But I'm grateful to do this, to process with you. See what I did there? To journey with you in this because it's really exciting. It's exciting, the idea of us being able to walk out this morning with something to chew on, to work on, and to grow in. So I'm really excited. If you remember, Pastor Sam kicked off the series, and he was really helping us with this idea of the organizational structure of how the tribes moved, and how in the middle of that structure was the presence of God himself. He was there, and he laid out for us all the different tribes and where they were, and we talked about the cloud. Do you guys remember this? Do you remember it? And then everybody was watching the cloud, and they didn't move until God moved, and so everybody was waiting. Is God moving? Because then we move. See, we never move apart from God. We move when God moves, right? And that's still true for you and I today. Then the next week, Pastor Phil came in and just did a beautiful job unpacking for us what I got 3 boys, and complaining is like my life. It's all I get every day. And so he unpacked for us how really dangerous complaining can be and really how God's presence is with us. And so when we're complaining, he's hearing. And really, he talked about how crucial trust is in this relationship that we have with him. And then Pastor Dylan, beautifully last week, he unpacked for us chapter 13 and into chapter 14 and talked about how faith and failures, all these things, how difficult they are, and then talked about in chapter 14, God being kind and God being faithful and God's forgiveness, and how when Moses pleaded on the people's behalf and said, you are kindness, this is who you are, God had mercy and forgave. And I just go, man, I need that reminder. Jesus is my mediator. As Moses pleaded on behalf of the people, so Jesus mediates for me, stands in the gap for me. Jesus is who God sees, and I am grateful for that. I hope that was a good reminder for you too. This morning, I thought chapter 14 is a little dramatic. The spies, you remember the spies going out? Spies coming back and lying to Moses, that whole thing. That's got nothing on chapter 16. Chapter 16 is crazy. You're like, what? That happened? So that's where we're going to go. We're going to pick it up. Basically, what had happened was a guy named Korah, a Levite, descendant of Levi, so he's part of the tabernacle priesthood, gathered some friends, a guy named Dathan and a guy named Abiram. He gathered these guys and went around and collected some appointed leaders from each of the tribes. 250 appointed leaders. These are people who are already in positions of leadership. He gathered about 250 of them along with Dathan and Abiram, and they confronted Moses again. Slow to learn. Here's what happened. If you're with me in chapter 16, verse 3, here's what happened. They came as a group to oppose Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You have gone too far. The whole community is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is with them. And so why then do you set yourselves above the Lord's assembly?" Again, they found something to complain about. They found something to be upset about. They have been upset about wandering. They've been upset about the manna, the quail. They've been upset about the promised land. And now here's another thing. You think you're better than us. You've put yourselves in a position over. Well, you've gone too far. Enough is enough. And actually, really, if you look at the tone of this, it feels that way, right? Like, this isn't just simply a rebellious indignation. This isn't just whining and venting like we normally see. Do you see what they did here? He grabbed a couple other prominent leaders and then grabbed leaders from all the different tribes, qualified to lead. He even said it, that we've been set apart. I mean, we're leaders. And they're confronting Moses, saying, there's a different tone to this. It's not what it was before. As these leaders were gathering in their numbers and what really appears to be a hostile takeover of leadership, it makes me think about this guy Korah. It makes me think about Dathan and Abiram and what their motives were. What was going on there? Why was this happening? Why was this a reoccurring thing? And I see this power struggle and Korah wanting to be this self-elected high priest, which isn't how it works. God had elected Aaron. He had appointed Moses. These guys had their position because of God. And I think that what had happened was that Korah was seeing what was going on in Egypt, that the priests had some authority, some political influence, had wealth, and that it was kind of their own power dynasty in the priesthood in Egypt. And was probably looking at Moses and Aaron and their sons going, that's what you're setting up. And so why do you think you're better than us? Why do you put yourself above us in the assembly? Like, we're all chosen by God. You kind of see what his thoughts are here? He had his mind set on milk and honey. He had his mind set on the promised land. He had his mind set on fields and vineyards. And so that's why he goes. This isn't simply complaining about not getting their inheritance. It's, I want more. I want position. I want power. Moses' response, completely different to mine. My military background, living in a monastery with an abbot over me, I am used to structure, I'm used to obedience, and so I'm like, shut up and get in line. Like, what? Why are we having this conversation? Who are you? Like, what? That's not what Moses does at all. Moses falls on his face before God. And initially, when I read that, I was like, oh, what a humble guy. Well, he wasn't bowing down to them, seeking their grace. No, he was going before God. He went before God and he said, you choose the leader. You make it clear who is to lead your people. And so what Moses does is he sets up a ceremony. He sets up a ceremony and says this in verse 7. The man the Lord chooses will be the one who is holy. And then he puts it back in their lap, kind of like watch yourself. You heard that phrase, right? Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Moses is putting it back at them going, you Levites have gone too far. And then what seems to be a last-ditch effort, as Moses seems to often plead for his people, he tried to remind the leaders how blessed they are. Look at verse 8. Moses said to Korah, now listen, you Levites, isn't it enough for you that the God of Israel has separated you from the rest of the Israelite community? And he's brought you near himself to do the work of the Lord's tabernacle and to stand before the community and to minister to them. He has brought you and all your fellow Levites near him. But now you are trying to get the priesthood too? Like, you want more? Like, you're not satisfied? Like, you want more? You want power? Listen, It isn't against the Lord that you and all your followers have banded together. It is against the Lord that you and all your followers have banded together. Who is Aaron that you should grumble against me? Again, Moses is reiterating, this is not an us thing. We don't appoint the high priest. God appoints the high priest. So you're not power struggling with me. You're power struggling with the Father's plan. Moses is trying to remind them, you don't have a leadership issue. You have a God issue. There's something happening relationally there between y'all that you got to figure out. So Moses says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a ceremony. We're going to let God choose. So he calls all the leaders. He says, here's what we're going to do. Come together. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. He sets up this whole offering. And he tells the leaders, I want you to come and to do it now. And a couple leaders, Dathan and Abiram, go, no, we're not coming. We have now moved from whining and complaining to complete defiance, disrespect, and disobedience to the leadership of Moses and Aaron. Do you see what I mean, how it feels different? It feels different. There's something bigger going on here. You ever had that moment? I've got 3 boys, right? You ever have that moment where you're like, and my patience is gone? Like with like your kids, or like with like a friend of yours, or like when you're like Facebook warring, and you're like, nope, I'm done. I think Moses is finally there. Look at verse 15. Check this out. Then Moses became very angry and said to the Lord, do not accept their offering. I have taken not so much as a donkey from these people, nor have I wronged any of them. In other words, he is so like, what? Like you have gone too far. You are no longer venting and whining and just experiencing some discontentment. No, you have crossed the line. I haven't even taken a donkey from, like his patience is gone. And he's not pleading on their behalf right now. He's saying, God, don't accept it. Moses is going, I've tried to lead well. I've tried to lead fairly without personal gain. I've defended these people. I have fought for these people. I have bled for these people. I've loved these people. And in response to my leadership, this is how you treat me. I just keep, every week we're going through this series, and I just keep reading, and I keep thinking about the Israelites, and I'm going, why is this happening? Why is this a thing? Like, what is going on that they just can't figure this out? And they just keep repeating this cycle, and they keep just repeating this cycle. I can't figure out. And so I've been chewing and processing, and then it kind of clicked. It kind of clicked. I realized, is that me? Sorry. That's my... I even trimmed my beard for today. Maybe. Is that good? There we go. I think the Holy Spirit was trying to say, it clicked. I chewed, I pondered, and finally it clicked, and I realized this is far simpler than I thought it would be. You ever like overcomplicate things? I do that a lot. Ask my wife. And I realized this is far. You know what it is? You know what their issue is? You know why they keep this crazy cycle happening? They have failed to understand that relationships require maintenance. Relationships require maintenance. Here's what I mean. We all know that to have a relationship, a good and healthy relationship, it takes work, right? It takes an intentional pursuit of the other. How about this? It takes being willing to understand them, to hear them, even submit to them. We know that in relationships, it takes trust. And I believe these things were missing from these leaders, from the tribes, from the people, especially Korah and his crew. See, these guys, as Moses pointed out, were working around the tabernacle. Remember the presence of God. They're working around it. They're working in it. They're doing dishes. They're setting up offerings. They're receiving the people. They're doing ministry to the people. They're doing all these things. They get into this habit. They're just kind of flowing. They're kind of flowing. And they have this promised land mentality in their head. I just want to get to the promised land. I just want to get to the promised land. I just want the milk and honey. I want the fields and I want the vineyards. I'm going to go. And they completely miss that there is a maintenance that has to happen in their relationship with the Father. See, merely being in the presence of someone doesn't build relationship. Being in the presence at home doesn't create intimacy between husband and wife. Merely being in the presence of a sibling doesn't build relationship. There has to be investment. There has to be intentionality. There has to be pursuit. There has to be trust. And these Israelites are in the presence of the Father, but they're not maintaining. They're not maintaining. Relationships require maintenance. They go back. I mean, what are they thinking? They go back. They go, remember when we were in Egypt? Yeah. Wasn't it horrible? And they're like, it was so good. And you're just like, what? You know where that comes from? Not having a relationship. See, when you don't have a relationship with someone, it's easy to go, remember back when? But when you're in relationship, come on, you know this. If you're married or if you have a sibling or if you have parents, you know this. When you're in relationship, you just want to be with them. You understand that there are challenges and there are difficulties, but you want to be with them. And you want to maintain that healthiness. Nobody wants to have a hard or bad relationship. So how do you get that? How do you and I not become like the Israelites? How do you and I not go, we just want the milk and the honey? How do you and I go, we just want the fields and the vineyards? How do you and I go, we just so focused on the promised land of heaven? In other words, how do you and I not get too caught up in our retirement funds or in our big vacation that's coming up or on what our kids are doing and how they look or how they appear or whether we make a team or not or what school we get into or what degree we have, or how do we not get caught up in the materialism? How do we not get up in the culture that this world says is success? How do you and I stay focused, realizing that the presence of the Father as believers in Jesus Christ indwells us and lives within us? And so we have more than the Levites had. They were around the tabernacle. He's within us. The same God that breathed life into existence, the same God that rose Jesus from the dead indwells us. He is with us, and yet you and I so often get distracted by our financial challenges, by the choices of our children. We get so distracted by our homes. We get so distracted by whether or not we've made enough money. We get so distracted by getting that next position at work, and God's going, you're missing me. You're maintaining those things. You're not maintaining us. I'm here. I haven't gone anywhere. The tabernacle is here. It's within us. But you're so focused on getting that milk and honey that we don't have a relationship. And you know what happens when you don't have a relationship is you revert. You revert. My wife will tell you in the first few years of our marriage, man, she just messed it up. Okay. It might not sound just like that. It may sound like, Doug, you really screwed it up. And I did. I messed it up. And I was immature, and I was young, and I screwed things up. You know what hurts a relationship? Staying in that. Staying there. I think part of having a healthy relationship is moving past that. Not staying unhealthy, not screwing things up, not messing. Well, how do we do that? Well, I think something that the Israelites didn't do and something that I had to learn in my life, and thank God there were men who spoke into me and said, you need to own your crap. Am I allowed to say that in church? They said this. They said, you better start owning and growing. See, relationship takes owning and growing from your mistakes. Own and grow. Own and grow. If I hadn't owned and grown through my mess in the beginning of my marriage, I would have caused far more. I did enough damage already, but I would have caused a lot more damage. I don't think the Israelites were owning and growing. I think they were sitting in who they used to be or what they used to have or what they wanted, but not where they were. They're going, remember back when they were going, we just want to get to the milk and honey. We just want to get to the fields and the vineyards. They weren't owning that they had messed up and that there were consequences to that mess up. I think about my kids. I just get confused. I get confused because my kid screws up, and I don't want to discipline him. I don't wake up going, I can't wait to discipline my kid today. They mess up, and I discipline them, and somehow this whole scenario gets twisted onto me. And they're mad at me. And my 8-year-old's like, you're so mean. I'm like, me? What did I do? You're the one that punched your brother in the throat. Like, how did we get here? I think we do this as adults. It's not a children thing, it's an immaturity thing. And I do this in my marriage. My wife calls me on something. She wants to see me grow. She wants to see me mature. She wants to see me become more like Jesus. And so she'll confront me and go, hey, here's what I saw you do, or here's what I heard from you. And I'll go, yeah, but you did it, And she'll be like, wait, what's happening right now? Child. You know what I'm doing. It's what the Israelites did. It's what my kids do. See, to have a healthy relationship, you cannot point and blame. It's you, Moses. It's you, Aaron. You've set yourselves in these positions over us. Don't point and blame. Own and grow. Own and grow, because if you don't get the consequence. The whole point of disciplining my children and giving them a consequence is my hope is that they will learn and grow from it, right? And not repeat the mistake. Same thing in my marriage. My wife is confronting me going, I don't want you to stay in this place because it's not good for either one of us, so I'm going to bring it up. And if I start to point and to blame, I just do what the Israelites do. I get on this crazy cycle of discontentment and bitterness and resentment. And so I need to stop and I need to own and grow. And I just wonder, do we spend enough time thinking on that? What do you need to own and grow? In your marriage, in your parenting, with your siblings, in your relationships with them, in your parents, the resentment and bitterness. A lot of us have that. In your relationship with the Father. What do you need to own and grow? Instead of point and blame. I get financial challenges and negative medical reports. It's easy to go, God, why? It doesn't help. Instead, we need to sit and own this is reality, and then we need to grow in it. I think because of a lack of maintenance in their relationship with him, they grew distant from him. And so it was easy. It was easy. If I can just give fair warning, a moment of authenticity. Do you do that too? I do. Do you do that? Do you get caught up in the job? Do you get caught up in the yard? I love working in my yard. Man, I love it. And I will spend so much time out there. I love to read. I will read, and sometimes I let that reading distract me from things I know are important. Imagine if I'll spend a whole Saturday outside. I love to mow. It takes me like 4 hours to mow. I try to make it 6 hours. I spell words, and I'm like, imagine if I spent that much time with the Father. Oh, I read something interesting really recently. It's this leadership book, and he was going, sometimes it's not about talking, sometimes it's not about doing, sometimes it's just about being with the Father. I'm so busy doing that I can't maintain my relationship with him because I'm so distracted by everything else. I don't know. I think that's what these people did. I think that's what you and I are in risk of. And because of that, because of a lack of maintenance, because of the distraction of all the stuff going on in our lives, we are at risk for finding ourselves in trouble, facing consequences. And Moses, like I said, he doesn't plead this time. Look at verse 20. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Separate yourselves from this assembly so I can put an end to them at once." Now Moses, he hasn't gone full Dougie Fresh yet. He has some control, and he says this in verse 22. He fell down and cried out, "Oh God, the God who gives breath to all living things, will you be angry with the entire assembly? When only one man sins?" He's still trying to plead. Like, it's so funny. What a great, good model of leadership. But the Lord responds in 23 with this: "Say to the assembly," thanks Moses, "move away from the tents of Korah and Dathan and Abiram." In other words, God is having mercy on everybody and just punishing those who sinned. And then this is what Moses says is going to happen. This is verse 28. "This is how you will know that the Lord has sent me to do all these things, and that it was not my idea. I am not a self-appointed leader." Verse 29, "If these men die a natural death and suffer the fate of all mankind, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord brings about something totally new, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them with everything that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the realm of the dead, then you will know that these men have treated" who? Aaron? No, the Lord, "with contempt." That's exactly what actually happens. The earth opens and swallows those men and their wives and their children and all their belongings. And then those 250 appointed leaders who were like, "We want your job," God rained down fire on them. The people, freak out. And they start blaming Moses and Aaron. Yeah. I hope I'm not that dumb. Sometimes I feel like I am, and my wife helps me to understand that, but I'm like, really? You did not just see what happened? Moses did not do that. So it angered God that again they were complaining. Remember how the patience ran out? So God sent a plague. And as it was wiping out thousands upon thousands and upon thousands of Israelites, 14,700, Moses again pleaded on their behalf, begged Aaron, "Get out there, get in between the dead and the living, do an offering and appease the Lord." So Aaron ran out there, did an offering, and appeased the Lord, and the plague stopped. Not having a maintained relationship with the Father, where you are understanding what he's doing, you are in tune with how he's moving, you are watching that cloud. When you get so distracted by your IRA, when you get so distracted by your successes, when you get so distracted by your goals, when you get so distracted by your diseases, when you get so distracted that you're looking right here and you're missing the movement of God, and then the earth opens up and starts swallowing everybody, and you go, "Moses, what did you do?" You've messed up because you weren't here. That's why we have to maintain this intimate trust relationship with the Father. I think what they missed was far more significant than the milk and honey that they longed for. What they missed was that they had already had something so significant. Contentment in this process of life is found in a maintained relationship with the Father, not a maintained yard. not a maintained car, not in annual vacations, not in the initials behind your name. It is found in a maintained relationship with Christ. Everything else will come up short. I guarantee it. It doesn't matter what people think of you or whether they accept you or like you. It doesn't matter how much stuff you have. And I'm getting fearful as I look around our culture and even within our family here, I'm concerned about discontentment. I'm concerned that, and I say this because I think a lot of us are so focused on our dreams and our honey and our milk, and we spend so much time mowing our lawns that we miss it. And there are consequences for missing it. I'm just thinking of our church. I'm just thinking of our family. I'm going, we're all about, as believers in Jesus Christ, as part of this Foothills family, we're all about connecting people to Jesus. And we do that. There's 1,000 people here on a Sunday. We're all about growing, and we are into the Word, and we do small groups and retreats and mission projects, and those are great. I go, there's more. We are called to more than just that. There's a call to be a witness, to make disciples, and yet our children's ministry is suffering. Our coffee bar couldn't even stay open because we couldn't get enough people to serve. My ministry, the student pastor, I oversee junior high school, and young adults. We have no women ministering in our young adult ministry. So all the ladies and our young adults, they don't have anybody discipling them. Our high school and our junior high more so, is hurting so deeply and badly for people to step up and to make disciples. And I think they're not because we're so focused on right here that we're not maintaining this, and so we're not living in the call that he's called us to. We're not moving when he says, go. I said go, make disciple. And we're like, as soon as I hit this level in my bank account, then I'll take a day off and go serve it. As soon as my kids get done with this season of their life, then I'll start. God, I can't move. I know you want to do things in this church and in this community, but not yet, because I have got to make sure I trim all the trees in my orchard. I've got like 27 trees in my orchard. It takes forever. That's why I have my wife do it. But it's true. By her choice. She's much better. I'm like, zzz, the chainsaw. And she's like, no, you cut up. Okay. Here's my point. Here's my point in that. And I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm not trying to, but I think we're confused. We are not the old Israelites where we have a high priest on stage every Sunday doing everything for us. The Levites, where the Levites prepared all of our sacrifices and offerings, we don't have that. In fact, what we see is that we're called the royal priesthood as believers. We are the body. You and I have been. Do you remember verse 9? Look at verse 9. This is what Moses was saying to these leaders. Isn't it enough for you that the God of Israel has separated you from the rest of the Israelite community? Isn't it enough? And he brought you near himself to do the work. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Are you smelling what I'm stepping in? Are you catching it? Isn't it enough that the Lord brought you, he chose you to stand before the community and to what? To minister to them? That he has brought you and all your fellow Levites near himself, but now you're trying to get more? It actually reminds me a lot of Ephesians. I chose you before the creation of the world. You are a royal priesthood. You will be my witnesses. Go, make disciples of all nations. Baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. He chose you before the creation of the world to minister to the people. He brought you close. And guys, we don't have the tabernacle. This creator and sustainer of all things indwells us, within us. We are the Levites. We don't have the high priest doing it all for us. We are them. Why do we want more? Why do we want that house? Why do we want all those cars? Why do we want that collection? Why do we want that retirement? Why do we want that vacation? Why do we want all this stuff when what we have within us raised Jesus from the dead? And he's given us a mission. He's moved and he's going, move. What are we doing? And I'm just getting nervous that there's going to be consequences for our failed maintenance. I'm not saying like, I know we just had a couple earthquakes, but I grew up in Washington. I heard my whole life, there will be one, there will be a big one, and California will be gone. Here's what I'm learning, and I'm telling myself over and over. I'm saying over and over, Doug, don't maintain the temporary, maintain the eternal relationship. Stop maintaining the temporary. Maintain the eternal relationship. Come on, stay focused. We got stuff to do. We have literal lives to save. People begging to be discipled. People longing for a phone call or a conversation over coffee. Don't worry about the temporary. Stay focused. God had had enough. So here's what he does. He goes, in chapter 17, he starts talking about, here's how I'm going to make it clear. I want to make it clear. I'm going to make it clear. And he says, I want every tribe to take a staff. Take a staff from every tribe, okay? And then I want you to put the name of the leader of that tribe on the staff. Now, for the Levites, I want you to take and put Aaron's name on the staff. Now, whoever's staff the next morning has blossomed, has bloomed, budded, that's who I've chosen to be the high priest. And there will be no more question. And then I want you to leave that staff, bam, right there with that guy's name on it with the bud. No more questions. So all the staffs come and they put him in this tent, and Moses closes the tent up, leaves, next morning comes back, opens it up. The staff of Levites, Aaron, has budded, blossomed, bloomed, grown, and grown almonds. I think God was pretty clear about what he expected. And then in chapter 18, he goes into this whole, here's the role of the priests, of the Levites. This is how you are to serve the people. This is how you're to minister to them. Sounds a lot like us in the New Testament. I have chosen and I have appointed you. I have picked you. You are to serve. You are to make witnesses. You are to make disciples. You're to go. We've been chosen, friends. In Hebrews 4, we see, since we have a great high priest in Jesus who has ascended into heaven, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, let us hold firmly to the faith we profess. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin. So let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Let's not face our financial challenges, our diagnoses, our relational issues with our spouse or our children or our in-laws or our siblings or our parents. Let's not figure that stuff out on our own. Let's be the family that God has called us to be, and let's go to the throne of the Father. Stay right here, stay right here, stay right here, focused, owning and growing, not pointing and blaming. And then when he says move, even in the financial challenge, even in the diagnoses, even in the relational strife, when he says move, we move. And we trust. And we seek to understand. And we pursue him, because that is what healthy relationships do. It only comes from maintaining. I'm gonna pray, because I think there's a reality. I don't want to be unaware that there's a reality that there are people here who are like, maintain? I don't even have a relationship. How am I going to maintain something I don't even have? I get that. And I think it would be wrong for me to sit down and to not even give you that opportunity to start that relationship. And I think there are more people, far more people, just to be honest, I've been there, that are sitting here going, oh, dang it, I gotta maintain. I've been talking about doing this. I've been talking about getting into a small group. I've been talking about serving. I've been talking about reading my Bible. I gotta make this happen. I gotta make this happen. I think there's a lot of people here that are there, and I would be wrong, again, to leave and not give you a concrete opportunity to say, on that day, I made the decision to maintain. And so here's what I think I should do. I'm gonna pray. And while I'm praying, I'm just gonna say, hey, if you're in one of those camps, just raise your hand so I can see you, and I will make eye contact with you, and I will pray over you. And then what I'm gonna ask you to do is, because we are not meant to do this on our own, if you could grab one of the cards in front of you, the Connect cards, or the salvation cards, I'm forgetting the name, fill that out. And when we continue to worship through giving, just throw that in there. If you don't get it done in time, that's fine. If you want to do it later, just drop it off the welcome booth. That way we can call you and go, we'll do it with you. We'll maintain with you. Okay? All right, let's pray. Let's do that. Father, would you open our eyes and open our hearts and our ears to hear you, and to hear your spirit, and to feel your pull. My God, there are people in this room that don't have a relationship with you. They're not even in the presence. They're not there, but they long for it. For some reason, they've been coming to church for years, just because they grew up, or it's because they want to look good in their business, or because their spouse makes them, whatever. Regardless, you have brought them here. And right now they're realizing, I need that relationship. I don't even have that relationship. I ask that you pull them towards you, Jesus. And there's others here, Father, who are going, man, I've been distracted. God, put a burden on their heart to long for maintenance in their relationship with you. If you're here and that's you, if you're going, I want to do that, I want to give my life to Jesus, I want to maintain, I haven't been, but I want to. If you're in one of those two camps, would you just raise your hand so I can affirm you and pray over you? I see you. If you're in one of those two camps and you want to raise your hand, just go for it. I see you. I got you. I got you. I see you. I got you. I see you. Father of mercy, and as Pastor Dylan reminded us, of kindness and faithfulness and forgiveness. Wash over these people who have made a commitment today to begin their relationship with you for the first time, or that are going, I need to maintain. I need to stop being distracted. Father, would your grace wash over them? Would you, as the high priest, show them mercy and compassion? Stand in the gap for them. Father, thank you for your goodness. Father, thank you for your love. God, thank you for paying the price on our behalf. We wait to move when you move.